have mercy. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another very special episode of Red Wine and Chaos. I'm Ashley. That's Laura over there. And
hey, everybody.
We have a really special guest today, Laura. Why don't you introduce her?
Yeah, if you guys all could welcome Tené Robinson. She's joining us tonight. Tené is the founder, CEO, the brains behind Selfie Connoisseur. And we have a great episode tonight. We're going to dive into a nice discussion about mental health, a very important topic that is important to us. And we look forward to providing you with some really helpful information as well. I think Tené's going to bring a lot of really great stuff to the table. So let's start where we always start, though. Tené brought to us one of her favorite wines. And so if you want to introduce what we're drinking tonight, Tené.
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
Thank you. So yeah, like I like wine. I love wine. I almost like I'm a drinker. So wine, beer, whatever. So when you ask me which wine, it's like, man, what do I choose from? And I did not used to be a Chardonnay like fan. Like it was way too, for me, it was just a little too dry, too bitter. But then I came across this Chateau Saint Michel, and it sounds super fancy. Like, to me, it sounded super fancy. And when I had a glass of it, right? I had a glass of it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is Chardonnay. Like, this tastes so good. Like, I love it. And I'm looking, like, all over, like, I live in Chicago, so I'm looking at like, Benny's and, like, these major beverage stores and could not find it. But I walked down my aisle at Walmart, and there it was sitting. So.
Right. So when you and I talked, I'm like, I wonder, okay, Chateau. It sounds like a super fancy wine. So I'm like, I wonder, okay, I'm at Meyer. Am I gonna be able to find this? Let me look. But I luckily stumbled upon it with no issue. They make they had a nice Sauvignon Blanc for that. It probably has a whole line, but that was the first one I stumbled upon, and then I found the Chardonnay shortly after. Yeah, so this is a 2018 vintage. I'm sorry, and it is out of Columbia Valley, which I didn't do my homework as to where that's located. It appears that it was bottled in Washington.
Oh.
And it is a Chardonnay reveals bright apple and citrus fruit character with subtle oak nuances. It creates a soft and appealing mouthfeel. I love how that is on so many bottles of wine, that mouthfeel. I never noticed that until we started doing this. I'm like, I love that word. So this is a venture outside of our normal glass of red. Ashley and I don't normally ride with whites too much, but I will say I like this. This is nice. It is really nice. It's smooth. What you think, Ashley?
It's
because I know you I know whites for you are a little tougher than they are for me.
It's it's Chardonnay has a bit of a nostalgia for me. So when John and I first started dating, he took me to meet his grandma who lives in St. Joe, and Grandma Irwin was a really big Chardonnay drinker. She always had a box in the fridge, and every time. I know. Every time I went over there,
the box is key.
Every time I went over there, she was like, the bird clock or some kind of clock would chime, and she was like, "Oh, wine time, Ashley," and we would pour ourselves glasses of Chardonnay, and it was delicious. So, while it's not my favorite, it's nostalgic and it tastes great for that reason today.
Yeah, very good. So, okay, so tonight we have a Red Wine and Chaos scale, rating scale. So 3 cheers is the best, 2 cheers is kind of in the middle, 1 cheers is not our favorite, but not a drain dumper. We've had some drain dumpers, but we'll leave those nameless for purposes of sponsorship. What would you rate the Chateau Saint Michel Chardonnay? On a scale
For myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For like, okay, is this scale like for a Chardonnay drink or like in general?
No, just in general. Just in general. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'd give it like scale of 1 to 3. I would give it like, for me, it's about a 2.5.
Okay.
2.5 cheers. 2.5. Yeah, we call it. Yeah, we say cheers or clinks. Yeah. Yep.
Clink. 2.5.
Very good.
2.5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Clink, clink, clink. Yep.
Clink, clink, clink.
Yep. I would say you cut it in half. I would give it a 2. I like it. Chardonnays aren't my go-to, but I do like it. It tastes good. It's smooth. It is very smooth. It's not dry. It's not a dry Chardonnay. So and I don't like a dry white.
Right.
I don't not at all. So I would say I'll give it a 2. Yep, on my scale. Ashley, where you gonna live at on this?
I was gonna live at a 2, surprisingly.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm living at a 2.
You did good.
It's good. It's easy to drink. I even put ice cubes in mine because I didn't have time to chill it, so it's nice and cold. It's delicious.
Mm-hmm. I know when I drink it and I needed like something sweet, I'll put literally a drop of grenadine right in the center.
Oh.
And it's just like, I just need a little bit more sweet, but not like a sangria, just something, just a little sweetness to it. Drop a sangria.
I was just gonna say, it might make a nice white sangria though. It would probably make a nice white sangria. But okay, great. Well, we got our switched gears and got our Chardonnay in for the day. So cheers, ladies. Thank you, Tené, for that recommendation. I definitely would recommend it to anybody who does like a good Chardonnay, because it is good. So on to what we did come here for, other than just to have some wine and hang out. So Tené, let's start with, if you just want to give us tell us a little bit about yourself. Your background, and then maybe what brought you to where you're at today. Give us a little insight into Selfie Connoisseur and all the other things that you have going on, because I know there's a lot. So
yeah, definitely. Well, hello everyone, or hey, like I like to say to my people. Again, my name is Tené Robinson. I hail from, born and raised in Ypsilanti, Michigan, 734. Born and raised in Ypsilanti, Michigan. To Scott and Crystal Robinson, I have an older brother, Scott Robinson, which is how kind of you guys became aware of me, as my brother Deuce.
Hey,
Deuce. Western Michigan, 2-5. Shout out to him. But for myself, I mean, right now, currently, I am I hold a bachelor's and a master's degree, master's in human resource management, and I'm a certified personal life coach. On top of a mental health first aid instructor. Those are just like the credentials, things that I can say are on paper, but really how I like to refer to myself, I'm a mental health awareness advocate and influencer. So that's really my stance in the world, not just social media. Career-wise right now, that's what I'm doing, but I also work full-time for Columbia College Chicago. So I work for higher education in our, what we call is our one stop or our central. So I'm a counselor for students on campus at Columbia College here in Chicago. And I work with them from financial aid all the way to getting them the appropriate resources when they may be in need for anything, whether it is mental health related or academic related, financial related, that sort of thing. I've been in higher education and like the finance field for about close to 15 years now. I just did the math sitting here, and it's 13 years total, so close to 15 years. And just that experience working in finance, working in higher education around different walks of life. I've worked for, for-profit institutions. I worked for private institutions, private not-for-profit institutions. So I've met and encountered a variety of students seeking to gain a higher education. So with that came getting to know students, building rapport with people in general, and seeing how the world works for various different people. So the various different mental health related things and impacts on things, as well as being a human in the world right now, having gone through higher education and, the professional atmosphere as a Black woman shoot, you know, that side of things. So I've had a lot of my awareness comes from my own lived experience, because I am someone who's diagnosed with PTSD and generalized anxiety disorder. And that's something I don't necessarily say I wear a badge, but I talk about that openly. It's not something I'm afraid of. And really what my platform, Selfie Connoisseur, is all about. And it's like multifaceted.
That Selfie Connoisseur, when I first came across that, which I did prior to even starting this podcast, through Scott, like you said, and he was telling me about your brand and things like that, and your mission, if you will, and it just brings such a good feeling when you first when I first joined your page on Facebook and looked at what you had going on. It is that feeling of self-love, and that, you know, that feeling of just kind of overall total wellness. I like what you got going on. You can definitely feel it through your message and everything that you're trying to do. There's not enough of that, so I think that's awesome. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I mean, you nailed it. I love hearing that, because I never really get to hear the other side of like what I'm trying to put out there. So to know that like I'm making some sort of positive impact on somebody at like first glance, then that's amazing.
Yeah,
you know,
first glance,
it's hard
absolutely.
it's hard to explain, because, you know, Selfie Connoisseur, it's like two things. You know, it's not selfie queen, you know, and then there's that little byline that I have is like collector of fine selfies, you know, because, you know, connoisseur is a collector of fine things, and normally you hear like fine wines or scotches or, you know, something like that. So for me, my brand actually started with my own, at the time, battle with mental health and mental illness. I was struggling for a time and really didn't know what was going on with myself, but it was something I was good at. I was very good at taking selfies. Like, I was very good. And, you know, not to like toot my own horn, but it's a skill that I have, you know, to take a selfie and it not, you know, it not so much look like a selfie, you know, it looks like it's a photo, like somebody took a photo of me. And my uncle, I have to credit him, my uncle, Patrick Taylor, he just moved from Ann Arbor to California. So we miss him, but he mentioned once, he was like, dude, you should like start a blog or something, because your pictures are like dope. Like, this is, and I'm like, what? You know, but I was taking pictures of myself that somebody thought was dope while I was going through a very, very dark time in my life, you know, but I was still able to create these amazing photos, and it was something I was good at. And a lot of people didn't know the backstory to that, or how many takes of that selfie it took to get the best one. Like, I'm very big on not filtering, you know, like I might change the lighting, but I'm not altering my face, my shape, anything like that. Like, I'm very big on presenting as I am. I might, you know, because I tend to have blue hair or vibrant colored hair, so I might change lighting a little bit to make it pop. But other than that, like, you know, it's me. But I was doing all of this, and I was like, what I would describe to someone was like completely like dying on the inside, like, and nobody knew, you know, and I felt so alone. And I was on social media a lot at that time, and I couldn't really find anything that I related to. I couldn't find anybody who I felt looked like me that was struggling, or just anybody. Like, nobody's talking about this. And I am on social media all the time. Like, I don't have cable. I have a Fire Stick. So, I mean, you're on an electronic device 24/7, you know. And I'm like, I'm alone. Like, I felt alone. I felt so alone. And I took it upon myself, which is hard for people to get help, like to see a doctor and express more about my mental health and not so much about like my physical, like what I'm feeling, you know, like something's not right here, you know, and then to see it go from there to see a psychiatrist and to put the steps in motion to understand what was going on with me. And then decide, you know, from just that little birdie of my uncle saying, hey, you should start a page, to being like, yeah, I should. And I should talk about maybe what I'm going through, or encourage people, because, you know, what I feel on the inside and what I'm seeing on the streets here in Chicago, or on the buses with women, young girls in Chicago, and people in general with the violence in the world, is just like, I feel like there's a lack of like self-love. Because to me, how could you hurt another person, or how could you do this thing if you love yourself? And so I'm like, I need to do that. Like, I need to, this is where I want to come from. I want to be like this radical self-love advocate. And I always shied away from those type of things on social media because I do work in corporate America per se, and just, you know, that disconnect of being who I am outside of work 9 to 5 and who I am inside those walls. And I'm like, you know, I'm blessed to work for an organization where I can absolutely be myself. I can show up with blue hair. I can show up with purple hair. You know, I can, you know, I have tattoos. I can be who I am at work. So who I am on social media is fine. I don't need to be scared to be who I am, to talk openly about this. And that's really where Selfie Connoisseur came from. It went from me posting photos of myself and sometimes just giving an encouraging quote, something about self-love, something you should do. And all it was just pictures of me throughout Chicago with different backgrounds or different hairstyles, different styles. I'm like the big necklace queen, so I wear a lot of statement pieces.
I know, I love your statement necklaces, and I love them because you rock them with just like hoodies.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, you got these fly ass necklaces on with, and your hoodies are go too. I'm like, wait, that's why I say, where'd you get your hoodies from?
Exactly.
I love like, that look. It's dope.
Thank you. Like that was part of, I think, my journey, because like I graduated from Albion College undergrad, and I was an honor student in the Gerstacker Institute. And I was trained to be this this professional, wear a suit. And I had that job where I wore a suit and buttoned up and nylons. And my mom can tell you, I did not like nylons as a child. Like, I had to have cotton tights on Easter.
Yeah, hate them.
So
still hate them to this day.
Exactly. Like, I can, and I was like, I pride myself in being able to be a chameleon per se, you know, like I can blend and I can do this because I'm educated and, you know, I'm knowledgeable and I'm smart, you know, I can do this thing and, you know, go from one place to another place that's a little bit more strict. And also, you know, having this degree and the knowledge and kind of seeing what's happening behind the scenes with the business, as well as the students, the people, the customers, you know, that sort of thing. And also being a student, a person, and a customer. So I look at myself as like that great go-between for where I'm currently working, because I'm working 100% for the students and 100% for the organization too. You know, like my goal is to have someone like me, a woman of color, behind the scenes, being able to and care about, you know, somebody, whether they're orange, green, blue, purple with polka dots, you know, making it to the end, you know, knowing that you can make it. And the fact that students walk in, you know, Columbia College is an art school. So again, we have different walks of life coming through my doors, and for them to be able to sit down with somebody who has different color hair or has tattoos at work, and I'm talking to you about things, for them to see someone like, hey, you know, they're just in their journey and I'm still in, you know, on my journey. They're at the start of theirs and I'm on my journey, you know, right now, for them to be able to see maybe what they can aspire to, or that it is okay, you know. And when I see students struggling, you know, I think it's a gift that I am somebody who lives with, you know, a mental illness, because sometimes I can see what's happening in somebody else. Sometimes I don't, you know, but a lot of times I can relate and have that empathy for somebody. And for my students, it helps quite a bit. And then that just took me into the mental health first aid. And that is through the National Council for Behavioral Health. And in the higher ed sector, you know, like there's various different Facebook groups and things. And my sorority sister, I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. Yay, Kamala. But yeah, my sorority sister, she posted a certification. She's a AVP at William Peace University in North Carolina, and it had like mental health first aid certification. I'm like, this direct message her, like, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's a training that we had. It's part of it's part of housing, and you know, and she works with students on that side of residential side of things, and I work with them on the more administrative side of things. And I'm like, what? And so she's like, yeah, go to the website. And I did that day, went to the website, found the closest training here in Chicago. And it just so happened to, I was able to get in on a grant like where it was free, it was sponsored through Rush University. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, I went on a Sunday. It was on my grandmother's birthday. I went on a Sunday, November 3rd, and I was just in this training like, oh my goodness, I'm learning so much about these various different mental illnesses as the person that either might be having experienced those things, or the first responder, the friend, or the stranger walking past someone that may be experiencing an illness, and just sitting there to myself. I did a youth one, and I'm like, I'm going to be a great mom, you know, like, oh my gosh, and oh my goodness, like this literally was what was going on with me when I was 15, you know, years old. And, you know, we just didn't have a language for it in the Black community. We didn't have a language for it. And that was something we learned about, cultural considerations when it comes to mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
So I became certified that Sunday, and I'm like, great. But at the end of this class, the instructor, he was like, if you want to learn about becoming an instructor, let me know, you know. And I'm like, wait, I can do this too? And I was one of the only community member in a class full of first year residency students, like medical students. And I'm like, these doctors are learning this, you know. And it's like, you guys are going to be doctors in another couple of years. Like, this is your first year residency, and you're learning this, and you are ER doctors, you know, basic, almost first responders in a sense. And I went from there to just thinking about it, looked at it, and I seen the application, and I felt so defeated, because it was like a dissertation to apply for. But I didn't let it defeat me. I filled it out, and I got accepted into the program. And then it was like, okay, how do I afford this? You know, how do I make it? It's important, you know?
Yeah. And what exactly, so you said you went through some training, and the purpose of the adult mental health first aid instructors is to be able to assess and kind of sense, like you said, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, be able to identify maybe somebody who's struggling with mental health crises or something like that. And this training then helps you to be able to maybe help identify the next steps and so on and so forth, or what all does it include?
You literally just nailed it. So as an instructor, you learn those things, but you are able to certify first aiders. So me as a instructor, mental health first aid instructor, I teach classes, various different trainings for first aiders, for someone like, you know, yourself or Ashley, to be able to take a training to get a certification that's yours through the National Council for Behavioral Health to be a mental health first aider. And that is for you to recognize the initial signs of someone who is going through a mental health crisis or might need mental health assistance. Essentially, it's teaching compassion and empathy, and then providing you with the resources on what to do next. Because a lot of individuals, you know, they're not going through these, you know, mental health crises or, you know, panic attacks and breakdowns right in front of their therapist or right in front of the psychiatrist. Or, you know, we also talk about schizophrenia and eating disorders. Those things are typically happening around family members or community members and things like that. So, you know, the thought of having these community members that you're having these crises around, having training similar to first aid CPR. So if somebody were to pass out or start choking on something, there's at least one person that's going to be there that knows the Heimlich, right? But if you think about it, you'll probably encounter somebody going through a mental health crisis before you encounter somebody that needs the Heimlich.
Yep.
You know, and so it's really just making mental health as important as physical health, and putting people out there just as much as regular first aid CPR through the Red Cross. There's now people there that are trained to recognize these signs for mental illness and to know what to do, how to de-escalate a situation. You know, we teach all of that, you know. So it's a pretty intense course. It's about it's an 8-hour course, about a 13-hour training, but it's an 8-hour course that you commit to. So you're devoted almost a full day to becoming certified.
So I love that you kind of already talked about briefly that the stigma of mental health and not getting help. And I after I had my son, I had some pretty bad postpartum depression. And I didn't know, it was a first time mom. I didn't know what that was. And a lot of my girlfriends didn't know what that was. And my poor husband was like, I don't even understand what's happening. But I didn't, it took me a long time to even get help for it. And because I was like, what kind of person doesn't want to be around their kid, or what kind of, what kind of mother am I? And so once I did finally talk to my doctor about it, it was almost like just the act of saying it out loud just helped. And a light flip or a light switch like flipped up, and I was just like, oh, I feel a lot better, because I'm putting, it's almost like putting a face with a name, it's labeling what's happening. But how do you, like, where do you see this breakdown of that stigma, and how do we get there, and what does that look like, or what do you hope it looks like, outside of the obvious, we all wish it wasn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really wholeheartedly I like to say the heart of the course, and what intrigued me the most is because it's geared toward ending stigma and breaking down the stigma. And in order for something, like you said, you have to talk about it. You have to say, sometimes just saying it out loud is helping to do away with that stigma, or to relieve the pressure. I think where it's going to start is you. It starts with every single person. It's, being comfortable talking about it, and everybody, you may not be there yet, but to know, okay, I aspire to be there, I think is where it's going to start. Like, I've been seeing my psychiatrist and my therapist consistently for about 6 years. And I remember, and again, we talk about these cultural differences. So the way the Black community, white, Asian, Indian, whatever, how Hispanic community deal with mental illness is vastly different. It's just different. It is. I mean, and a lot of people don't like to talk about that or say it. I know, and I can only speak for what I know, and I know in the Black community is just not having a language for it, not knowing that, hey, me being one emotion or another, I'm just Black and white, and I may have just been anxious. I don't have a gray area, or there may be some form of social anxiety that's present. And sometimes the lack of knowledge creates ignorance, and then that just spirals into, bias and things of that nature. So I think people becoming educated. I offer a free course about every year. This year, I'm hoping to do 2 free courses. I sponsor about 5 individuals to take my course for free, and become certified for free. That's how serious I am about wanting to end stigma and for people to become knowledgeable. And when I first started this journey, like, I was gung-ho, like, okay, this is good. And, seeing and be, okay, social media influencer, and I can do this, and I can make $1 million, and I can just quit my job and do everything that, and then that becomes stressful, right? And I'm all about, like, being genuine, being 100% who I am. And I had to sit down with myself one day and say, and no amount of money can compare to saving a life. So if my post saves one person's life, I'm the richest person in the world. That's all I want to do. I want to just give stuff away. It's essentially what I want to do, and so that's why I push talking about it so openly, and I talk about myself and my own personal experience so openly, because when somebody looks at me, they don't think I'm somebody that lives with, a panic disorder or PTSD, or have been in abusive relationships and can speak candidly about a narcissist, but what?
Today we just did a whole episode today.
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to the Derek Jackson episode yet, but girl, Lord have mercy.
So I think me just saying, hey, okay, if I can't be who I am and talk openly to help somebody about this, if that's gonna hurt me professionally or something, I've told my parents, like, because they're a different generation.
Right. And I'm like, it's funny that you mentioned that generational gap, because I that was what I was gonna also mention, in addition to like cultural, generationally, that is a huge difference and a huge factor in that stigma as well, because my parents are older. Like my father's like 78 years old. My parents are in their 70s. And my dad, he, like sometimes he struggles with some things. And so I sought out therapy for the first time too. I think I've been going out for about 2.5 years. It's not something we ever talked about in my family either. And I think that's due to the generation that they're from. But, you know, I've mentioned to him how much it's been beneficial to me and how much it's helped me. He's seen me grow in it. He's said, oh, yeah, I see you handling things this way. You know, I've seen the growth. And I'm like, well, why don't you consider, you know, it's mainly for him, it's like anxiety. And he's like, I'm 78 years old. What are they going to tell me at this point? I'm too old to be going to talking to somebody. And I'm like, but is there an age cap on this? You know, like, no, I don't believe so, but I get it. So
I feel like even in that sense, like that's why I talk to people so much about my course, because my course is the course in and of itself really is just, to me, I like to say it's common sense. It's things you know and may have thought, but did not realize they were factual and did not realize they were real things and things that you can help, or that you were doing the right thing. It's reinforcing some of the good behaviors and bad behaviors and good terminology. And the world is starting to catch on. You know, a lot of times, you know, the language when it comes to somebody who has died by suicide, you know, it used to be committed suicide. And committed suicide is just like so negative, right? Like just, gosh, it's just double negative. Everything we learn in English, like just double negative, but it's all we knew. That's all, the only way we would hear about suicide in that sense, right? And so my course talks about person first language, you know, and it's an individual who died by suicide. And there's news outlets now that are catching up with that terminology. Like I've been reading a news release about suicide, someone who had died by suicide, and they had the improper language, and then by the time I got to the bottom, it had updated and they had changed the language. So, you know, the more people talk about it openly, and I think making yourself vulnerable, and in a lot of situations, I am making myself vulnerable, talking about myself, but like, I don't look at, you know, having anxiety or having, you know, PTSD as any sort of disability or it making me weak. I think I'm just, if anything, it's a superpower because I can send something and I'm preparing for everything, you know, at the same time. And that's really where I come from. And so the fact that I think for myself, people were seeing these selfies that were so nice, and she has these dope necklaces on, and she wears the necklaces with a hoodie, you know, because I will, like, okay, I need to dress casual or semi-casual. Cool, I can wear a hoodie. If I put on this big crystal necklace and some heels and some leggings, I'm dressed up, you know, but I'm still comfortable.
Right.
And then, you know, boom, I have pink or purple hair. Like, it's a whole vibe, you know. So just me being that and people seeing that in a photo, and then boom, you get down to the caption and it gets real, you know. And I have a few posts where I posted the series of photos it took to get the perfect selfie, and it was when my anxiety was very, very high, and I had jitters, and like all of my photos were blurry, and it would take like almost 30 just to get the perfect one, because I just could not hold much of anything because my anxiety was so high. And I got real. I put myself out there, you know. And then the next post is encouraging, you know. And then it went from that I started getting direct messages from complete strangers. Because Selfie Connoisseur, I wasn't talking about openly on Facebook. That was a part of me. It was just something, a part of my Instagram family, you know. But then once I associated the two, I merged the two. It was like I'm getting direct messages from somebody I've never met in England about, thank you for posting that, or thank you for saying that, in the middle of the night. And me at the time struggling with my own anxiety, I'm up because I can't sleep. And it's like, wow, like I'm doing something, me talking about this, because that person wasn't alone in that moment. And I've been in that moment and I couldn't find anything that helped me, you know, that I felt like there was a person behind it. Because Pinterest is cool, finding quotes online is cool, but like when you know, have Facebook, Instagram, you see a person, you see a face, you know, being able to associate what you're going through with someone or something, you know. And the mental health first aid training legitimizes some of those thoughts too. Like, you know, anxiety, this is a thing. These are the symptoms of anxiety. This is what it could look like. It could also look like a heart attack. Do you know if it's a heart attack or not? You know? So we teach all those things in the course. And like, I love it so much because it fits who I am and like what I'm all about reducing stigma and talking openly about it and being comfortable. You're sitting next to your best friend and you notice like, hey, I kind of just learned about this and this has been going on for a while. So be a little bit more comfortable asking the question. You know, we teach students how to ask someone if they're thinking about harming themselves or killing themselves. You know, because in society we somehow think that if we ask it and we might just put it in their head, and that's not the case at all. You know, and I talk about that and helping disarm individuals with how uncomfortable that conversation is. You know, and we go through realistic situations with schizophrenia, you know, to make it realistic for someone to really just provide that empathy. Like, you don't know what someone is going through, you know, so be slow to judge, you know, and I like to say quick to respond and not quick to react, like respond to someone, you know, because when you're responding, you have logic and emotion there, you know, and I'm big on having both a logic and emotion, because I've been in some situations where I just didn't feel comfortable being the superhero in that sense, because I still am a woman and I'm tiny but mighty, you know, even though I have a big brother and I feel like I could be in WWE ring at any point, you know. But I've been in those situations, because we talk about that, and I've been in situations where I did just somehow jump right into action, and then afterwards I had to debrief myself. So that is another part of the course. Now that mental health first aid is becoming more known, they've incorporated some self-care training as part of the curriculum for first aiders. Like, how do you take care of yourself after you just help someone else, you know? And that was something I would say
that would definitely be that would be a tough. I always wonder about that about my own therapist. Like, after I leave a session with him, I'm like, man, how do you do this? And you do this all day. You do this
day in and
you know,
day
you
out,
can't day in and day out, and you're carrying so much heaviness. How do you know, and it truly takes, I think, a number of things to be able to be somebody who can do that for other people. One, you have to be empathetic and compassionate, like you said, that like your level of empathy and compassion just for humans in general has got to be just ridiculous. And
Absolutely.
two, the ability to be able to disconnect your emotions, you know, and be able to disconnect yourself personally to be able to serve others. It's such a selfless, what you're doing is such selfless work, and to see you be able to do it, what you're doing, you have literally inserted into everything that you do, right? So it's at your corporate job with the college, you know, it's in Selfie Connoisseur, you know, it's in your adult mental health first aid instructor. Like, that's a lot to carry. And so I commend you, you know, I'm not speaking for Ashley, but I'm quite sure she feels the same, but like, commend you on that, because it's important work. Like, some of the statistics that were on your, I was taking a look at that adult mental health first aid instructor flyer that you had posted, because when you first posted about that, I was like, what is this? This is before we even talked about bringing you on. I'm like, I've never even heard of this. What is this?
Right.
But I was reading on it, and it's like, on average, 123 people die by suicide per day, you know, and that is like, that's so, it's insane. It's insane. And it's so sad. Yeah. It's so sad. And so we commend you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that's definitely been my goal, is to just make myself who I am, like, everywhere. You know, it's like the Jill of all trades. Like, I'm everywhere, and it's like, how do I just narrow down one thing when I feel like what I'm doing in higher education is exactly where I'm supposed to be? I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in front of students, in front of families. Because once I became certified as an instructor, I got certified as an instructor in March 2019. By May 2019, I had my entire staff at Columbia College trained. Like, it was like, okay, I got this. Now, where I work, everybody that's on my floor needs to be trained, you know, and a few other departments. And then when they hired in new people, we need to get them in this training. And that was when I was teaching in person. The bonus with COVID now, it's been, the curriculum has been changed, and there's been additional training where I could teach it and still have that feel virtually, because I was so against virtual, because I'm such an in-person person. But to still have that, like, great impact in teaching it on a 5-hour virtual course, and you're doing some pre-work prior to the course, and it's something that I've still been able to teach throughout COVID. Like, I had a class planned last March the weekend that we got shut down, and it was like, well, we probably got to move this back. And me and my co-instructor, because some of my classes I do, depending on the size of the class, I teach with an additional instructor. And we met in our training, and we've kind of just stayed with each other throughout. So it's just been for me like a blessing for me, you know, and having lived experience, because I love my therapist, I love my psychiatrist, but you know, you have that like slight wonder as the patient, like you don't really know, because you just
Yeah.
you probably read a book, you know, you probably and they may, but they can never really disclose that because of doctor patient, you know, that relationship. But me, you know, especially becoming a certified personal life coach and going through like my specialty is cognitive behavioral techniques, like, you know, what you think is what you do sort of thing. That's how I, you know, teach, is like really your frame of mind, like how you can spin a negative situation, you know, so it doesn't impact you as much. And the fact that I can talk openly about my lived experience, you know, to kind of maybe legitimize a little bit of what I'm saying to people, I think has helped. So it's just like I found my niche, and it's just like I got right in there, you know, and was able to really enjoy what I'm doing.
And I feel like that self-love, that selfie connoisseur mentality, like it can come in so many different forms. And Laura and I have talked with even the podcast, like I make jokes, but it's serious, right? Like it's cheaper than therapy for me. And it's I can sit here and hang out with my girlfriend and have a couple glasses of wine and talk about all of these things, because I know at the end of the day, a whole bunch of people are going to hear it, but I can't see them. So it allows for me, and I don't know for Laura, but it allows me to kind of be a little bit free, a little bit loose with my words.
Yes.
Definitely.
I agree.
Like so I love that this movement of self-love and self-care is part of this mental health movement. I love that that's out there, and that it can come in so many different forms. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just a matter of finding what that form is for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a positive side of social media, and there's a negative side of social media, right? But that's with anything. Mm-hmm. And what I found, and I must have hit the jackpot, I have to say, this year, is the control that I have over, because, you know, both systems is just made up of an algorithm, you know. And I've been friends with people for years, but I haven't seen none of their posts. Why? Because I haven't liked their posts, because I haven't seen their posts. So Facebook just decides, in order to know, you know, what this person is doing, you have to think about them, to type them in, to go to their page. Otherwise, it's not really going to be on my feed. And so once I kind of understood that and understood the algorithm and really how hashtags work, I would follow hashtags. So my timeline is filled with things that I enjoy seeing, you know, essentially. And I want to see positive things. You know, I want to see things that are encouraging me. I want to see things truly that I relate to, you know, and that might not be Tiffany, who I've known since the 6th grade. You know, I love Tiffany, you know, I support her when her baby, you know, all these things, but that might not be what I want to see on a regular basis, because it's not feeding into my spirit in that moment. And once I discovered that, and I started following hashtags and, you know, liking more posts that are self-love and liking more posts that are geared towards mental health, that's really what I started seeing. So then I just continued to post more, and then that engagement, and, you know, and a lot of the people that I'm friends with, and the direct messages that I get or inboxes that I get, are like, thank you for saying that. Like, I was thinking that, and, you know, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, I know we're all feeling it, and everybody just isn't at that place to really put it on their page yet or put it out there publicly. And, you know, again, we talk about that generational thing. Like, my parents, you know, my mom, bless her soul, like, oh, don't put that out there. It has your date of birth on it. I'm like, Mom, everybody just wish me happy birthday on her birth. You know, like, they all know my birthday already, you know, like, put it together. Oh, okay, great. So just knowing that, and still knowing that, okay, you know, I'm only putting out there things that, you know, I want to represent, and I had to think like, well, why am I doing things in my life that I wouldn't want other people to know, in a sense, and then there's still that sense of privacy, but in terms of things like I'm not doing anything that I'm ashamed of. So if I lose out on something or I miss out on something because I'm speaking the truth and I'm being who I am, then that wasn't for me. And putting that on Facebook, it was like almost every person that I followed and stuff, it was like they were mimicking or, just positive. People were positive. It was like, you're not bringing any negativity to my page, on my comments or anything. There's nothing, none of that. And that's what I was liking from other people. So then that's what I see on a day-to-day basis. And I use on Facebook, you might still be my friend, but I'm not following you for 30 days because you're tripping right now. And I don't even see that.
Right. Yeah.
And because it's my timeline. It is, I want to see what's going to pour into me. And because I'm just a sensitive individual and I pick up on so many energies. Like my mom said the other day, like, Tené, when I try to be tough, she's like, hey, you will cry for a dog on the street. I was like, I know. Yeah, so,
that's the empathy piece that it runs through you deep. Yeah. I think that the desire to connect, and to relate and connect is something that people need to hold on to. And one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing, right? So neither of us have experience in radio, podcasting, entertainment, any of the above. Like Ashley's in finance, I plan events, so I mean, we're like a mixed bag over here. But we knew that what we did know is that we related to each other. We leaned on each other to get through tough times, to get through the chaos, right? So we leaned on each other. And whatever your outlet is that you need, whether it be, and some people are able to find that outside of professional health, but man, I swear, I promise you, if it's something that you're considering, to anybody who's listening and watching, if it's something that you're considering, if you're struggling with something and you're just on the fence and you're not sure, because I was for years, and simply because I didn't have the education, I didn't have the knowledge, I didn't have the information, and it wasn't anybody's fault. It was just the way that I've been brought up and the way that my life turned out. I took a leap. I listened to folks and friends of mine, colleagues who had been through it, and I took a leap of faith, and it was one of the best things I've ever done for myself. So whatever that might be, it might not be therapy for some people, but if you're on the fence and you're not sure, I promise you, most oftentimes than not, it's going to be something that will change your life in a positive way. So I'm so thankful for my therapist, and I'm thankful for folks like you today who are absolutely putting themselves out there to do this selfless work to help others to survive and to get through this actual chaos that we live in, day to day. So
I'm thankful for your therapist too, Laura. I get a lot of nuggets from him.
You get a lot of nuggets and you get a healthy Laura, right?
Like,
I didn't know where you were going to go with that one. Yeah, man, my therapist is so dope. I wish I could share him with the world because he's great, but he's just
I ask
amazing.
Laura, like, so what did you guys talk about today? Because I need to pick me up. Like, did you guys,
right.
what was there? Do you have any knowledge to give me today?
Yeah, he's outstanding. And, and the other thing is another important piece that is just a little tidbit, a little nugget that I've figured out for myself and that I've heard from other people. If you're starting that journey and seeking therapy, sometimes it's about the right fit for you and your therapist as well. Again, it's that relation piece. It's that relation piece that is important, and you might not get it right the first time.
Yep.
So sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. When we were going through with Oliver before we kind of got that ADHD diagnosis, we took him to a few therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists and trying to just figure out, is that truly the road we need to go down, or is there something else we need to explore with him and for him? And one of the things that I think it was the psychiatrist told me, he said, listen, you've been seeing this girl with him. If it's not working, go find somebody else. She said, Ashley, we get fired all the time. And I was like, oh, but nobody had said that to me out loud. And to hear that out loud, it was like, oh, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. Like, how am I expecting myself or my kid or somebody to open up to somebody if they don't click? And yeah, they probably do get fired all the time. And he's like, our feelings don't get hurt. It's the nature of our job. And so if it's not working, go find someone else. And, there's some
you're sharing your most intimate pieces of your life with somebody. You want it to be somebody that you're comfortable with, that like you're confiding in them. And then like, sometimes there have been things, the other thing too, this is just speaking from experience, don't be afraid to share. Like there were times where I would get ready and be like, man, I don't want to tell him that. I don't want to tell him that. I don't want to tell him what I did. I don't want to tell him how I handled that. Like we're working, here we are, I'm doing all this work. And then my week, and then I nosedive, and then now I got to come own my shit. I don't want to tell him. And I'm like, he's not going to judge me. Like, but I'd be nervous going into therapy, like, oh shit, oh, I'm sweating, oh man, he's gonna be so mad at me. And never at all. Like, there's no judgment. He's like man, it was just, it's funny, but totally just
I'd totally be like, period on that. Like, you're like, you hit that right on the nail. Like, one, as particular as you're gonna be, just speaking as a woman, as particular as you're gonna be about the doctor that's checking out your hoo-ha, you need to be as particular about that person that's checking on your brain and what's going on, because a lot of times when it comes to mental illness, I say this a lot, it's not a personal thing. It literally could just be a chemical imbalance. It's a chemical thing. Like, it's nothing you can control. It's not because you're weak or anything of that nature, but there's medication for that. And everybody's not a pill person. They're not somebody that wants medication. And I'm very much that person in terms of, I don't want to have to take medication. I'd rather go the herbal route or the route of trying to figure it out, with essential, whatever it may be, but if it's something that literally I am lacking that would help me get to that point where I can do it my way, then let me know. Let me do it. Let me try it your way. And, I tell people, like, you are your biggest advocate, not your insurance company, not the doc. You are your biggest advocate. You have to advocate for yourself and be honest. Like, and it's so hard. Right. Like, I'm with you, Laura. Like, sometimes, like, I was just there 2 weeks ago, and I had told them I wasn't, and they had, and I did it anyway.
You mentioned the word weak, and that was something that held me up. Right. So I like to think that I'm a strong woman. I'm a strong human in general. Like, I'm strong. I don't need to go to therapy. What do you mean? Like, I'm strong. I'm intelligent. I praise myself on being strong, a strong woman. I've been through a lot. This is nothing. What do you mean? What you mean you need to go talk to somebody to sift through what? No. Okay. Yeah. That doesn't make you weak. It just makes you. The way that I look at it is this man has provided me with the tools to continue to put in my toolbox to be able to navigate anything that I struggle with in life. And he gives me some of the craziest tools that I would have never thought of on my own, because that's not my wheelhouse. It's not my profession. It's not my life work. That's what they're there to do. And I never would have thought about it. And there has been so many positive things that have come from it. I can't stress it enough. So again, it doesn't have to be the route that you go, whatever that is for you. It could be something different. But if you're struggling with something, find that outlet. It maybe some people, maybe therapy isn't the way. What is it? What is that outlet for you? Is it navigating your social media and removing the negativity? Is it shutting down your page for however long? Is it workouts? What is it that can help you push through?
I talk about your doctors, your family members, or your friends, the people that you're speaking to. You're opening up yourself to your own little personal justice league. Like, you're building them. So if they're not,
I love
if they're
that.
not
I
pouring
love that.
Yeah.
if they're not pouring into you
Yeah.
the things that you need to win, like they don't need to be a part of your team. Like get them off your team, and like that is like my psychiatrist that I've been with now for almost 6 years. Like I remember the day I was in her office. That wasn't the first time I had spoke to someone. You know, the first one didn't work out, and that was years prior, and I just stopped going. That was before I became knowledgeable and wanted to really talk about the stuff I needed to talk about, you know. And I remember sitting in the lobby, and I'm just like it was my PCP that referred me. And they were like, I think I know where you need to go. Because I was like, look, doc, like, I'm not depressed. I'm crying because I can't express to you what I'm feeling or how I'm feeling or why I'm shaking or, you know, why I haven't slept in this long or, you know, I can't explain it and I'm flustered and now I'm crying. I'm not depressed. They're not sad tears. I'm flustered. And when I finally broke it down to him from that, because every PCP tends to have that same quiz where, you know, you number how you feeling and they add it up at the bottom. Hey, you know, you need Zoloft or hey, you need the, you know, sort of thing. And I was like, look, I don't need to take this quiz. Like, I know, like, enough to know that this is not what it is. Like, I'm not sad. You know, I'm flustered. And that's why I'm crying. So don't be deceived by the tears. And he straight up was like, oh, well, I know this. Go call them. This is where you need to go after this, you know. And I was blessed in that. And I remember sitting in that lobby and I'm like, Lord, I hope I like this person because it's all about, like you said, they may not be the right fit for you. They may not be able to understand, you know, where you're coming from, you know, and in order to be 100%, in order to get the help that I need to be able to be 100% with somebody. And if I feel as though I can't be myself around you, there's something wrong, you know, and you're the doctor.
Right.
And I remember when they opened the door and it was the biggest sigh of relief. And I was just like, thank you.
That.
You know, like, oh my gosh. And they can't get rid of me. At this point, it's a wrap. I'm
stuck with me now.
Chicago now because I'm not going anywhere. But when I sat on the couch then, it was like, I need to understand this is what's going on. And I didn't look like the normal person with anxiety. You know, I wasn't at that time, I wasn't like shaking and fidgety. Like I'm composed in public. Like, you know, I look fine. But because I held myself together that long in front of people, when I got home, it was a whole nother situation, you know. And I remember saying, like, do you want to see the inside of my mouth? Like, no, I'm not shaking or jittering my leg or something. Like, but the inside of my mouth is raw because I'm like clenched and sucking it. Like, and then they were like, okay, yep. And it was just like from that point on, and I was like, I don't want to be on medication forever. You know, that's not what I want to be. You know, I need help though. And they were just like, if the medication is going to get us to a place to be able to get you where you want to be, will you take it? And I was, well, yeah, you know, and that's when the science came and, you know, and I started looking for other outlets. Like I've done a lot of research on my own, you know, outside of the doctor's office and, you know, different medications. Like, can that medication be supplemented by like a food or, you know, a vitamin or, you know, something like that? Do I need to increase this, you know, or something? Or, you know, I talk about all those things about options. So it's like I'm on the and who I teach with, she's more on the holistic side of things, like faith-based mental health. And like we're great because like I say I'm the one that's the raw. I'm gonna give it to you, I'm gonna shoot it straight. And she's like more faith-based, but we both agree on that sometimes, especially within the Black community, it's like, oh, just pray about it. Not realizing that you praying about it, God might be leading you into the therapist's office or into the psychiatrist's office, or may have guided the hands to the person that created the drug that's going to help you, you know. And it's not just, oh, I'm just going to go to church on Sunday and I'll be fine, because that isn't necessarily the reality of things. You know, will it help? Sure. You know, help some people, sure, absolutely. But if it's legitimately a chemical imbalance, there's a chemical that's missing. So, so like we talk a lot about that in the course. Like my courses are pretty raw. It's a safe space within the course. So like I disarm to be able to disarm people to be able to talk about themselves and anything that's there. So like what we discuss personally in the courses is less there in the course. You know, whatever pretty much I go over that's in the text or in your documents, of course, share that with the masses. But you know, if you had to present a personal example, that's not something that's going beyond this classroom, you know, and that has helped a lot. And I always start off by sharing my own story. And again, people see me and they do not expect me to say, like, you know, that I live with a mental illness, because the first thing they see is like this big necklace around my neck, because I'm a have one of them. Like, I dress around my necklaces. Color hair, I have big hair, like my natural hair, and they just are not expecting for me, somebody that looks like me, you know, to be somebody who, I don't like to say suffer, you know, because, you know, again, we're doing away with stigma, so it's not suffering, it's living. I'm living, I'm thriving.
Living with
mental illness. So yeah, like I love it.
So before we kind of wrap up, give us your biggest takeaways that we want to take away from this episode. Give us some resources for people that they can check out. And we'll link all of those resources in the episode description when it comes out. But what if you could give us like a 3-minute wrap up, like what do we need to take away from this episode? Because I have loved everything in it, and I need somebody to sum it up for me. So
yeah,
what
sure.
can we take away?
First and foremost, it's okay not to be okay. You're first and foremost, you know, it's okay not to be okay. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to fight through it all the time. You're not alone. I'm here. That's my thing. I'm here. You can always find me. You can find me on all social media, really under Tené Robinson or under @_Selfie Connoisseur. If you do _selfie, you'll get me, because I know not everybody can hit the connoisseur spelling. I get it. But no, you know.
Man, you know how many times I had to look that up. I'm like, dang, I spelled that wrong again.
But yeah, you're not alone. You know, it's okay. You know, it's okay not to be okay. There are resources. You know, you hashtag what you're feeling, you'll find something. And I guarantee you, I've tried to incorporate any of my positive reinforcing awareness posts into just about any hashtag you can think of, whether it is hashtag suicide, which social media, if you put suicide in any post, they have an alert that'll pop up to ask if you need help or additional resources.
Oh.
Yes. There is so you hashtag anything, you can find it and scroll until you find something that speaks to your spirit, and then keep scrolling, you know, until you find that thing that brings you peace. When it comes to resources, you know, you have the National Council for Behavioral Health, the National Suicide Prevention Line. It's 1-800-237-TALK. So 1-800-237-TALK. That's the National Suicide Prevention Line. That is something that I post on almost a lot of posts. Every birthday, I do a fundraiser for the National Suicide Prevention Line. So something that's very important. There is the Trevor Project. That is for our LGBTQI community. That is there. If you are struggling, or if you need help, or if it's just the middle of the night and you need somebody that's there, it's the Trevor Project. You can just text START to 678-678. You know, again, Trevor Project, text START to 678-678. But again, keep in front of you what you want to see and what's going to bring you joy and what's going to bring you peace. Like, if seeing about COVID-19 right now, because we're in the pandemic, is not what's bringing you joy, stop liking it, stop clicking it, just scroll past it and double click on the thing that is going to bring you joy, whether it is a panda sliding down a slide, whether it's Leslie Jordan in the bed talking about, you know, how you doing,
So
you know,
funny.
so yes. Knowing you have more control over social media than you think. Like, it's not, they don't put in front of us what we want to see. We put in front of us what we want to see. So if it's not something you want to see, don't entertain it. Don't stay on it that long. Just keep scrolling. You know, I'm quick to report a post, whether you could be my mama. I don't like the post, I'm reporting it. So take control.
All right, Crystal, better behave over there.
Right. Take control. Take control. Take control. Take control
a
and
good little motto for this episode.
Yeah.
For
That's dope.
sure. Be radical. Like when you're radical about your
that's
about
awesome.
your mental health,
That's
about
awesome.
your self-love. Like when you become radical, it's like I have some shirts that I made because I also have a mental health awareness clothing line. So where mental health meets fashion, it's Connoisseur Shop, and it's the shirts that you would wear, you know, when you have, you know, you're trying to say something but you can't say it. Like I have hoodies that say I see a therapist, you know, or hoodies or t-shirts that say I'm fine, and then it'll say I'm anxious and keep saying I'm fine, you know. So just being able to wear something out. I have shirts that say it's okay not to be okay, t-shirts that I wear. So you know, I try to be there.
And
for people.
Tené, where can you find those? What's the website for those?
So for my mental health awareness line, it's Connoisseur Shop, SHOPPE.com. So Connoisseur.
You gonna spell shop out, but you're not gonna spell connoisseur out?
Oh, I can do it, but I might lose y'all. I don't want to lose everybody.
Nobody knows how to spell connoisseur. No, I'm playing. Google it, folks. Google it.
Google it. At this point, if you put connoisseur in Google, I'm pretty sure I might be part of what pops up, especially Selfie Connoisseur. But I'm Selfie Connoisseur on all social media, so you can find me on all social media. Tené Robinson on Facebook. I befriend everybody. I respond to my inbox. And I like to say I'm here. I have it tattooed on me. You know, it says I'm here. So I respond to everyone, and I try to be available at anybody's time of need to at least point you in the right direction if I myself can't help you. So, you know, take control, own it.
Take control. Take control. We love it. We love it. We love that. I love that. Take control. Take control of your chaos, folks. Take control of your chaos. Why? Because chaos is inevitable.
But that's why there's wine.
Right.
Tené, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate you, folks. Check her out on social media. Tené Robinson, Selfie Connoisseur, Connoisseur Shop. Look it up, how to spell it, because I'm not even going to attempt it. Take control, folks. Enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks, Tené.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.